Hi, my name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net, and I'm an advocate, a supporter, and a coach of the side hustler, the solopreneur, and the non-traditional entrepreneur. Today we're going to talk about Brené Brown. I'm a big fan of hers, and she has many killer quotes. But one of my favorite quotes talks about how you should think about the people that you truly dislike. This is a tough one, and and some of us don't realize that it's part of number one, emotional intelligence or EQ, and number two, that it's actually part of our success. Sometimes when I coach people or when I'm guiding people or when I do a keynote and I talk to people, there's an assumption that when you get to a certain level of success, you have your bestseller, you become a millionaire, whatever that metric is that's accepted by society, the assumption is that you don't have to deal with people that you don't like. And it's actually quite the opposite. I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of independents, the creators, the non traditional entrepreneurs I talk about, and everyone's in a different place. And I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, as my mother would say. And you have to find a way to work with people sometimes that don't quite understand where you're coming from. I did an ink column over at inkdamonbrown.com. Check it out. I have 500 plus columns as we speak. So feel free to go over to inkdamonbrown.com. And I talk about this. And there's one particular quote that I want to share with y'all. She says, "The most compassionate people assume that other people are doing the best they can. I lived the opposite way. I assumed that people weren't doing their best, so I judged them and constantly fought being disappointed." I judged them and constantly fought being disappointed. How does that resonate? I know it hit me a little bit. And I think it comes down to one simple question. When you're having a difficult time with someone, business wise or even personally, I think you need to ask yourself, do you believe this person is doing the very best that they can? Do you believe this person is doing the very best that they can? They could be a knucklehead. They could be many other things that would probably get censored if I said them. But I mean, are they doing the best that they can? I think about a Les Brown keynote that I saw a little while ago where he talked about how long it takes to start something. And it's hard because you don't know what you're doing. And he says, when a baby's trying to walk and they fall down for the first time, the guardians, the parents don't say, "Oh, he's not a walker. He's not meant to do this. She's not cut out for this. She's going to crawl for the rest of her life." Of course not. I have two kids. Like, you don't do that. even if you're like the meanest guardian in the world, you would never do that. No, you'd say, "Oh, okay, this is the process. Let's trust the process." What if we applied that empathy, that thoughtfulness, that sensitivity to all of our relationships and made a decision and said, "Okay, I think this person's not doing their best, so I need to have the conversation with them." That's one thing. But what Brene Brown's talking about, which is probably more often the case, is that they actually are doing their best. They're just not doing their best based on how we would do it. So, of course, we can't judge how we would walk or run down the street compared to, say, an 18-month-old kid, a toddler. So applying that actually gives us a level of sensitivity. It also makes us think, and again, back to the empathy, think about what it's like in that person's shoes. I know I've had business partnerships. I've done 25 books. A third of them have been co-authorships. Some of them did really well. Some of them were really rough rides. And one of the biggest lessons I learned from that, as well as my startup Cuddlr, which I sold, I had two co-founders. And, relationships are complicated. And if you get empathetic and start to think about what the other person's shoes must feel like, then suddenly you start to soften up and that judgment starts to go away. And Brené Brown gets into that. I believe it's in Rising Strong that she talks about that. In her book, Rising Strong, I highly recommend it, where she talks about how when you judge other people, then you're also judging yourself. And so if you're saying, "Oh, that person's so stupid, I can't believe they can't get it together," and all that stuff, the next time you're having a difficult time, which I've seen in live action, you could be talking about someone else and then suddenly you're in that same situation, and that's actually reflective of your own self-dialogue, how you feel about yourself if you're in that same situation. When we spew toxic things or when we're very judgmental of other people, that's often a reflection of how and what standard we have for ourselves. The trouble is that life is complicated, And again, I've lived long enough to see it where someone's talking about someone else and then suddenly they're in that same situation and their psyche can't handle it. But that's because that harshness is too heavy and they're too judgmental of other people, but also very judgmental of themselves. So as we soften up this idea, and once we're about to lose our cool, which happens to me all the time, so I'm not judging you. If we're about to lose our cool, asking ourselves, do we believe this person is doing the very best that they can? If it's a yes, yeah, let that shit go. And that's it.